Sure that in the little time we have, a quick check-in on time, Elberg. We have 15 minutes. 15 minutes to reflect on a lot of the knowledge that we've heard and new lessons that we at least heard. The question is, have we learned them? To start off, what you can see, I pulled up from listening to a number of the conversation are 3 starting questions. They were inspired by some of your talks and observations. And I actually want to start with the top one. And it's not only a question to you, but actually everyone here in the audience. What I would like you to take a moment to think about is, what have you learned from an elder that has shaped your thinking, being, or community experience in your life? So take a minute. Someone in your life who's made a difference. We shared with you some life insight that you still treasure and carry with you. Oh, although I want to actually give everyone a second to think about it.
He's pointing out you.
Yes. But I would be really interested to hearing a few reflections. Can I invite 2 people to briefly share a reflection? 1 person from the panel, whoever would like to share, and 1 person from the audience. Can I see? Yes, please introduce yourself.
Okay. My name is Mary. Do I stand or? Yeah, because of the camera, as I asked.
You can stand.
My name is Mary. I'm from Nigeria, and I'm presently a lecturer at the Prime University. This was really interesting to me, talking about the elderly community, because in my country, I was just sharing with my colleague here, there is a role, there is an important role that the elderly women play in my community related to maternal health. And that is when a woman gives birth, the elderly women come to massage the woman, we call it massage, and massage the baby to shape. It's more cultural and more traditional. Maybe it's also relevant in the Suriname culture, I don't know. Yeah. But recently, because of the high mortality rate in the elderly community, we started seeing many of the young ladies complaining that their mothers are no longer there to help them in this very unique, intimate, vulnerable moment of their lives that they share with your mothers. So you asked what we learned. I learned from my mom how delicate that time can be. I still miss my mom because when I had her presence the first time, when I had the first baby and when I had my second baby, the difference was clear. The important role that this elderly community, elderly women play in the life of a younger generation. And we talked about them being the library. What we found was a huge gap was as they were passing on, these skills were not being passed on. So we now have a young generation of women that do not have these skills and are in need of it, asking for it and wanting it, but more of our women are passing on. And yeah, I was just reflecting on that. So when you asked that question, I thought to share that, yeah, not just in the humanitarian context, also in other areas like maternal and child health.
Thank you. Can I invite 1 of the panel members to share a brief reflection?
Thank you. That's a very personal. I think it's really hit where it should. And I was just reminded of an older woman I met in the Democratic Republic of the Congo, where we were working with the communities and we had established these older people's associations. They had come together. They were a resource to each other. And within that community, there were other organizations who had come to provide humanitarian aid with all the good intentions. And they had created these child-friendly spaces. And what that had done had actually broken, challenged, disrupted the culture because traditionally grandparents look after grandchildren. And I remember this older woman asking me, who has given anyone the right to take away my grandchild from me? And I think that's not a challenge to me, or that's a challenge to all of us, to the systems that are set, that do not think about the cultural acceptability, the nuances. They don't ask what's right. I mean, it was great to hear from the previous speaker about really understanding what's acceptable. So I think I always get reminded of that question, who gives you the right? Because they are part of, they know their culture, they know what works, they know what the solutions are required. So I think my takeaway from that interaction has always been let's not be the ones coming with that savior mentality. We might have all the good intentions in the world, but people who are living that life, they know the solutions. Ask them. Thank you.
Thank you. And in the story you shared, there's maybe another lesson of with all the good intentions you can have as an organization or as an initiative or program, there are unintended and unanticipated consequences that are also something you actually should anticipate it will happen. And then the question in the art will be, how do you respond if you understand one of the unanticipated consequences might be harmful or undesirable? And that's also something that we know, at least from evaluations of Dutch development collaboration programs, we're not very well able to do as a sector of development cooperation. So this is maybe another lesson I'm taking the opportunity to just plug in here for a second. I want to move to the second question that you see listed here. And that was actually inspired by two of the conversations we heard. Joyce, you talked about how we can foster intergenerational, so between different generations, solidarity, compassion, community, and empathy. And at the same time, and it's also a conversation we've heard on a number of occasions, there is sometimes this tension between different resources and resources that need to be shared between, well, there's a finite amount of resources available. So how do we go about it? We heard a few suggestions there. But I still, within this panel, I would like to go back and circle back to this question. So how can we foster intergenerational solidarity and empathy in decision making and resource allocation, either nationally, locally, or institutionally? Is there someone who would like to start?
Yes. The first beginning is to know the culture. And then you go by the people and ask needs. And so you can do something together. And then I think they will accept it. Then when it comes, so you have to do it. Right? So you can do something that way.
Do something in conversation. And
Yeah.
if one group of people would say, let's prioritize younger people, children, and the other group would say, oh no, let's prioritize elderly, how would you navigate these tensions that might occur?
You have to do it together with all the three. Together.
Put
Your
everyone
communication.
in the same room and have a conversation.
Yes. Yes.
Thank you. Anyone who would like to add?
I think quite often today we've heard about participation, right? And so I would say participation, that's actually also what you were saying, right? Is key here. And what we have learned, at least in COVID times, is that actually most of the older people were quite happy, were quite willing to give their place to younger people. It was actually, they would choose their grandchildren themselves. If they would have to prioritize someone, they would say that I see you, that go to my grandchildren. So I think in participation conversations, probably I'm optimistic you could get quite far.
But I also think something. I think that the young people can learn so much from the elders.
Sure.
No, don't forget that. They have experience their whole life, so they can give it to the younger people. So I have to from my elders.
We'll check with one of your sons later.
Oh yeah.
How this plays out at the kitchen table. So now we've established it requires participation and conversation. We have seen examples where it's done, maybe not at scale we would like to see, but why is it so difficult? What does it require for us to do this then better if we know the theory? Why haven't we applied it into practice yet? Also knowing there are different other groups like disability, where we've said the same for many years. What do we need to do different in order to start doing and practicing these insights?
You have to make a plan.
Oh, yes.
I think for me, one of the things is, of course, the way the funding structures are and the way we do, deliver programs, it's always in these very siloed approaches. So maybe it's also up to us to try and promote a much more life course approach and think about how things can be done, in that sort of across a whole life course rather than thinking about these very siloed approaches. I'm not sure it's got easy to implement in practice, but at least I think we could make a start there. The other thing I just want to say about, of course, cultural practices and cultural norms, of course, we hear very positive ones, but I think some of them are also not so positive. And certainly from, I've heard many stories of people with disabilities who maybe aren't included in those groups or those societies in their own cultures. And so I think we have to also remember that how they can also be mechanisms of exclusion and how you might think about changing that as well. And again, that might also be through the life, much more through a life course approach. I can pass to you.
Yes. Oh, because I have a follow-up question for you, because funders are a very important mechanism if you want to effectuate change, at least from a researcher's perspective. If a funder says we should do certain things, we all of a sudden will be much more understanding of the need to do so than if a funder does not say we should do it. MSF has quite a unique situation that a lot of your funding is unconstricted. So you are actually in the position to do it different. What makes it so difficult for MSF to do this? Because the funder is, you are one of the few organizations in the world.
I think he's the right person.
I will ask both of you, but I will start with you and then I will, your reflection on this question.
I think it was repeatedly. I think first of all, it's a change of mentality, and I think we are in a hamster box. I don't know how to call it.
Yeah.
We do things the way we do the wheel, because that's the way we learn to do it. So as I say, for me, the two caps when I'm working as a clinician, the average age group is above 65. That's how I assume. Then I put the humanitarian and his pediatric care, sexual reproductive health, or women's reproductive health. And even myself, I do this dissociation. No? So I think it's more because this is the way we are trained, the way we are taught, the way the HQ level or whatever levels things has been going. There has not been, I would say, properly this reflection how to change things. And if I may add, I think it's been also very much discussed is the issue of data, available data, and how our assessments does not include older people, how systematically we are targeting some groups, but also like age groups, but some particular groups and not others. So maybe these are two of the ingredients.
Yeah, I think you said it all because it's a change. It's a change management really is a mindset shift. So it's really acknowledging, and I think we had made that step. We acknowledge the needs, then now we need to really change the way we think and the way we approach it. Classically, the way we do things, for instance, the way we operationalize the responses as MSF is that we do a scanning of where we want to work, and what do we want to do there. So, okay, there is an earthquake in Liberia, we just go on. There is a war in China, we go on. But a third dimension, we are more and more trying to really incorporate in the model is how we do it, because classically we are good in, okay, we go and do that. we go this place and do that. But then the world is so complex and the whole humanitarian landscape is really changing. Then how we do it and with whom we do it, these are really new parameters we try to incorporate within the model beyond classical, what do we do and where we do it. So really to come back to your point is the mindset shift and how we do it and with whom we do it.
Yes.
Of course, solidarity is great. It's a great concept, right? Let's face it, we are also in a world that becomes more individualistic all the time. That's also true. And it's also a world in which my own people first is gaining traction, right? So, yeah, those are all strong movements which are actually going against what you ask to create more solidarity. So I guess a lot of work needs to be done there. And vote for one person.
Especially in Netherlands where we have elections this month.
Yes. Just a bit comment. I was planning to put it in one of the slides, but recently there was some meetings of high level decision makers, politicians, I don't know, Putin and someone else. And since that out of the micro, they were discussing about how to increase their longevity. And this was on the news. They were talking how to achieve 150 years old.
Yeah.
So just to say, yes, how looking, how seriously strong politicians, decision makers nowadays, who are actually are considered older adults. And maybe there's how joking, how seriously a way of really.
They're just trying to prolong their own power.
Yeah,
That's what they're after.
It's on their own.
Yeah.
yeah, but maybe through that we can find. I say half joking, half seriously.
Never waste an opportunity to use a super powerful person's interest to your own and shape it to your own good. High risk, but possibly high gain scenario. I would like to go to the next question because I was literally struck. I wrote the quote literally down, Rhea. Whatever we do starts today. What will you do as a result of today as you go back to your busy lives? I would actually like to ask this question again to everyone. And in this, please, if you have a pen and paper, please take it out. Otherwise, take your phone. This is a little sort of teacher in me. And fellow teachers see what I'm doing here. Just take a minute to write down for yourself, also panelists. What will you do as a result of today as you go back to your busy lives? Take a moment to write it down. Oscar, you too.
Ja.
And this is always also in a classroom context, an exciting moment. Can I pull you away from your phones again? I see a few people still writing. Please wrap up the sentence you're making. And Joyce had something to say. She will say it in Dutch first and I will translate.
Ik ben er langer hiermee bezig. Ik heb heel veel vrijwilligerswerk gedaan. En bij, hoe heet het, de verslavingszorg, vrouwencentrum. Als, hoe heet het, in verzorgingshuis. Ja. En ik ben er eigenlijk al heel lang mee bezig. En nu ben ik zelf 27.
I'll also try to translate that joke.
En nou ja, ik heb zelf ook dingen aan mijn lijf, qua gezondheid. Dus je bent er wel mee bezig. En wat Hans zei over de verzorgingsstaat. Dat jullie worden gekort steeds. Ik merk het als patiënt in het ziekenhuis. Het is niet een face-to-face gesprek meer. Ik bel u wel. En dat gaat achteruit, want de arts en de patiënt heeft eigenlijk geen contact meer. En dat vind ik wel jammer. Maar ik sta erop dat ik een fysieke afspraak wil hebben.
I will
De
try.
patiënt moet ook mondig zijn.
I
Ja,
will try, including this last sentence as a
Yeah.
recommendation. So you have a long history of working actually to improve society for everyone. You've
Yeah.
done a lot of community and volunteer work with elderly, with women's health, with addiction care. It's been a red thread throughout your life and in different ways and forms. What you're noticing now that you're also becoming older and you have your own health issues
Yeah.
is that society is also changing. It's affecting your ability to access care in a way you were used to, much more interpersonal. And now it's more, oh, you will be called back later, whatever that works for us. And your last sentence, I'm jumping a little bit, is I will continue to speak up for myself. Ik blijf mensen aan het
ik blijf mondig.
Ik blijf mondig, so
Yeah.
I will continue to advocate for myself. And
Yeah.
maybe that's part of the recommendation for every person who identifies as a little bit older or young at heart. She said 27. That was a joke that the Dutch people were laughing. But on one hand, if you do identify as being slightly older, to speak up for yourself, but maybe also for all the people here who are not in the same age category yet, to do the same when they see this injustice being done for someone else. That we as individual professionals are also there to speak up for others when we can.
Je moet voor jezelf opkomen. Je moet niet alles aannemen wat de dokter zegt. Je moet vragen stellen. Ja.
And two other very wise words. You need to speak up for yourself. Don't assume or don't believe on face value everything a doctor says, but say remain thinking critically. And the third was
Voor jezelf
Oh.
opkomen.
And ask questions.
Ja.
Yes. Thank you. Can I hear one example of someone from the audience and what they wrote down? And then I will ask someone from the panel to also share. Who in the audience would like to say what they wrote down to this question? Actually, Emma, I'm sorry, I'm going to Rosanne because I know she works in elderly. Please introduce yourself as well.
Hello, my name is Rosanne. I am a global health doctor and currently working in elderly care. I think I wrote Practice What You Preach, but I just want to say that the underlining thing I think is time. I mean, we, with our Western glasses on, we assume that we make a plan and it goes quickly. We go to a community and we have half a day to understand this community, to understand the needs of the community. I had the privilege to work with, I lived in Suriname for a long time, and I had the privilege to work with the Amerindians, and everybody that knows the people of the Amazon know that they speak in vivid language. They tell beautiful stories, which I don't understand what it's meaning. So to understand what it means takes a lot of time. And if you don't invest the time, then you don't get the good results. And all the planning we can do, all the policy we make, we need time to understand what are the needs of the people, of the population, of the community. And if you really understand that, then the plan will work and then the intervention will work. But if you don't have the time or you don't want to commit the time, then it is failure from the beginning.
So what you take away is organized time within the processes.
Not efficiency, but time.
Leading often to efficiency.
Meaning
Yes.
later on.
Efficiency. Emma, please go ahead.
Thank you. Yeah, my point actually goes into a similar direction because I was going to say patience, but also on a personal level because I noticed that with my father, who's already quite old, and he sometimes was completely excluded from conversations or processes, and he doesn't know how to do something, or even what we're talking about. So even being in or like sitting in a being in a social setting doesn't mean being included into the social setting. So I think it is important to like this world is so going on and passing by so fast, to slow down a bit, and not forget that not everyone walks as fast as you walk.
Thank you. And who among the panel members that I'd like to share their thing they will do. You all put down at least one thing, so I'm sure.
You said it, Ria, so what are you gonna do?
Maria, I like to circle back to Maria.
Thank you. I think for me,
Also a teacher, Joyce.
the fight continues. I think I'm gonna continue on behalf of Help Age International and its network members to challenge the world, provide more evidence of what works and what are the gaps. So I think that's my to-do list.
This is only one step into the long journey you're already walking. So we're happy to support you. I think I speak on behalf of everyone. Albert, do we have 1 minute do we have time to ask the question in the audience? How long? Give us 1 minute. Okay, we can do 2 questions from the audience. Who could I invite? Yes. Ashley, please introduce yourself.
Okay, my name is Ashley. I'm not living in a very setting. I was working somewhere else. I learned a lot today, so thank you all for the presentation. And I have a question for you. It's really straightforward. If you would need to give a note, like from 0 to 10, on where we are in terms of inclusivity in humanitarian work that we do, what would be your grade from 0 to 10?
I want to ask all panel members to just raise their hands with fingers at the same time, so you cannot cheat and see where. So on the count of 3, raise 1 or 2 hands, which is the number that you would give on a scale to 1 to 10. 1, 2, 3. So I see 8, 2, 1, 5. I don't know 3. Ashley, how do you interpret this?
We did not pass.
I would make priority. There's lots of work to do across different perspectives. So this might also be a nice question to ask in the future again, to see how we're doing now and see if a year from now we'll do a little bit better. Are there people online? And is there anyone with a question online?
I don't see anyone.
Then we have time for a final question from the audience.
I was wondering to which extent in elderly care you collaborate, or that you maybe you work together with professional physicians. Like I was thinking about how you mentioned there was little access to morphine, for example, and I know that, for example, in the palliative, you can people physicians that use cochlear for providing for management. Like, is this something that is at all included within respondents, for example, within palliative care, or is this something that is not part of?
So basically summarizing, humanitarian actors working on health usually works under standardized guidelines from WHO, essential list. None of this is included in the essential list. Going the particular FMSF, there's also standardized MSF list, so it's not included. And it was mentioned for the SRH part, and it's very difficult once you're in a project to all the processes of supplies, logistics to validate locally produced.
The answer is no.
That's it.
So I'll have my answer to inclusivity.
Hans said, I now have my answer to inclusivity. Because there are many worlds working on this, many actors, and there is a community structure in humanitarian context. The community structure may also be severely disrupted, and you have your professional standards as an international organization, that is also accountable to these international mechanisms. And it's very complex. It's another word we heard a lot. And I see by Hans' body language, you would like to add something. So please go ahead.
Well, so we've heard a lot today about downstream issues, right? There's a problem, we have scarcity, we need to do something, we need to do it better, we need to do it more inclusively, we need to do it more participatory, whatever, right? I have heard very little upstream. Where does this all come from? I have heard nothing about the environment. I have heard nothing about war. Well, yes, we have heard about wars, but not how they originated. So what are the root causes? And colonialism is one of the root causes, right? And what you're actually saying is, sorry, we have our academic Western medical standards, and now we don't need to do that. Right?
That was not what I was saying. I was explaining different worlds that very little, yeah.
Oh, I disagree there. But so my point is that next year when we meet again, let's also look at the root causes of all of this. And let's include the themes that I just mentioned.
I think that is also a very nice lead up to Oscar, and to clarify what I think I wanted to, and allow me to clarify and be very explicit. The complexity at which we're looking is huge. And that's also a word we heard throughout the different world. There are different worlds, different standards, different norms, different values that at times clash and result in ways of working that, well, we see the state of the world. We heard it through all these presentations that mean we're not doing justice to everyone to the extent we wish we were doing justice to their needs. And I think that is the common theme. And one of the things I hope that today and all the work that Elberg and everyone here have been doing is that it helps us to move at least a little bit, or maybe from a 1 to a 2 is maybe a very low bar. But just continue to push the needle, because it is so complex. We will not have solved the issue next year, but hopefully a year from today, we'll be at a better place where we're going today, knowing the complexity and the world is not necessarily in our favor in that sense. With this, I would like to thank you, panelists, with an applause. And I will hand the microphone back to Elberg.